Although, at first sight, effects seem to be a little bit more interesting than masks, masks will be your most important ingredient in your everyday After Effects life.
Yeah, hello and welcome to this After Effects tutorial for marmorworld.com. My name is Matthias, and in this tutorial I show you how to use masks in After Effects. So for this I have already prepared here a clip, and we take it and drag it onto this symbol to create a new composition, as you've learned in the first Guru lesson. So this is our clip, and what we want to do with this clip today is to make this face here disappear in the dark. So replace this here by a black area, and for this we are going to use some new solid layer. So we right click here in this area. Another option is to go to layer, new, and then choose there solid, but alternatively you can also click here, right click, and say new solid, and what you then get is some colored solid, and we choose as a color a pure black. Click OK and call it black face. Okay, and what we now have on top of our footage is such a layer that is just pure black and covers the entire composition, so you can turn its visibility on and off here. And of course, not the entire picture should be black, but just this area here. And for exactly this, we can use masks. So let me make this visible again and choose this tool here, which adds masks to the currently selected layer. So we have this black layer here selected, and if I go here and just click, I create this mask, and if I click to the first point again, it closes the mask. And now you can see that the black only covers this area here. Let me quickly undo this. Edit, undo, edit, undo, 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 undo. Because of course we do not want to have such a shaped mask, but we want to have a mask that it perfectly resembles here this part of the face. So for this we actually need to see this, yeah. So if I turn the layer on, we cannot paint on it or draw the mask because we do not know where it should be placed. So one interesting thing is that you can even turn layers off and still add masks to them. So if I have this layer selected, no matter whether it's visible or not, the mask I'm going to draw with this tool will end up on this layer. Let me zoom in here a bit more by using my scroll wheel, and now I keep the space bar pressed to move. And what I now do is I click here, but I do not just click, but also I keep the mouse button pressed and drag it. And by this you can see you get here these handles that allow you to create Bezier points, so curved masks. Yeah? So I can add another point here. Again, I drag to get these handles, and another point here, and another one here, and here, and close it. And if you want to modify your points later, you can select your normal tool here and simply select individual points like this one or this one, and then move them by just clicking them with the mouse, keeping it pressed and moving. Okay, if I now turn on again the visibility of this mask, you can see that the face is now perfectly black. If you want to get rid of the visibility of this yellow line here, you can turn this on and off with this symbol. Yeah. Okay, if we look at without the yellow symbol, we see there is one thing not yet perfect, and this is here you have a very abrupt transition from the black to the other area, and we rather want to fade that smoothly. For this, masks have a mask feather property. So if you have a mask on your layer, you can click here and have this masks tab. Yeah, this is only there if you have masks. Yeah, on this layer you can see it is not there since it has no masks. But here you have this masks layer, and this is the one mask that we painted. And then this mask has a mask feather property that says how feathered this bound here, this border is. Yeah? So if we increase it, you can see that the border gets more fuzzy, yeah? And it's even more visible if we solo the layer. So I click here to only see this layer, and currently you cannot see anything because it's a black layer on top of a black background. If you click here, you toggle the background between black and transparent. So now you can see the black is in front of a transparent background, and here you can see that the mask feather allows you to, feather it and make a softer edge. Another property that is very useful for masks is this mask expansion that makes them smaller or larger. Yeah, so this does not affect, I make it visible here again, your original path. It just says it increases with respect to this path. Yeah. And one thing that is very nice about this is that if you have a very high feather, let's say feather of 30, you see that most of the mask disappears. And this is because the feather goes 50% to the inside and 50% to the outside. Meaning with a feather of 30, you have 15 pixels to the inside and 15 pixels to the outside. If you want to compensate for this, you can set this mask expansion, for example, to 50. Like this. And now you can see that the feather essentially starts at the outside border. Because from these 30 pixels, 50% feather go to the inside and 50 to the outside. And now with this expansion, you can more or less compensate for this. Okay, if you look at this result now, so I unchange this or this unsolo it here again. And I also make this mask again invisible. And let me turn this here on and off. And you can see that while here the feather is a quite good idea, that we have not abrupt transition from the black to the original image. Here in this area, it does not look very good that we have this feathering here. So what we therefore want to have is a feather that is only at the lower side, but not here at this border. And in CS6, there is a new feature that makes this very easy. So let's first look at how this is working in CS6. And later I'm going to show you another technique that can also be used in older version of After Effects. So for the CS6 solution, for this variable mask feather, let's set this feathering here back to 0. And also let's set the mask expansion back to 0, like this. Okay, so and now what we want to have again is to feather only the lower part. Let me solo the mask again such that you can see what is happening here. In CS6 you have this nice new tool which is called the mask feather tool. And if you make the mask visible again by clicking on this here, you can go to an arbitrary point of your mask path here. And you can see then this feather tool gets to this plus icon. And if you click then and keep the mouse button pressed and drag, you can see you have here an additional point that controls the feathering. And for example, here in the lower part, we want to have a lot of feather. And then I click again to another point, say this point here, and take another such control. And now you can say at this point, we want to have no feather. So I put it very close to my shape. And I do it a third time, clicking here, and get here a third feather control point. And now you see that you have a very nice mask that is not feathered at the top part, but feathered heavily at the bottom by just using these feather control points. By the way, we can change the color of the mask. You can see here the yellow is not very visible on the transparent. So whenever you observe something like this, click here on the color of the mask and choose whatever color you like. Okay, now you can see here you have this nice mask path, and here this is a feathered area that you are free to adjust later. Let's see how this looks in the composite. And now you can see we have here in the top part a very sharp edge, and here we have our nice transition from the black to the original image. This gets more visible even if I turn out again off or turn off the visibility of the mask. Okay, so this is what you can do in After Effects CS6, but how do you do this variable with mask feathering with other versions of After Effects? For this, let me just delete this mask again by going to Edit, Delete, or Edit Clear, or hitting the Delete key. now, now I just deleted one mask point, so I need to select this entire mask here and go to Edit, Delete, Edit Clear, like this. Now I can see there's no mask on the layer anymore, therefore it's again completely covering the full screen here. Now let me draw another mask, and let me draw this mask again here along the boundaries. And now in the lower part where it should be really feathered, I make it a bit larger than before. Let's say like this. You can see I can also combine sharp points with these curved points by sometimes clicking and dragging, and at these sharp points just clicking. Okay, what I have now is this one mask that fills this entire area. And let me solo this again so that you can see better what is happening. What I now do is I scroll out a bit by using my mouse wheel, and I draw a second mask by just clicking here outside of my mask. Let's say the second mask looks like this. You can see that by default, both these masks are included into the resulting region. And this is because both of them are set to add mode. By the way, to distinguish the two masks, I can again set here a different color. So let's do this second mask yellow again, like this. Or maybe on this transparent background, blue might work better. Okay, so what we now say is that we do not want to add the second mask, but we want to subtract it. So I click like this. Now you can see it is removed from the current region. If we now set for this second mask only a certain mask feather, then the element that is removed, or the part that is removed here, gets feathered. So effectively what you end up with, I turn off again here the masks, is some region that is feathered at the lower end, but not feathered in the other regions. Of course, you can also make this a bit more curved, so this is feathered edge to make it look more natural here at the corners. So let's take a look at this, make again these edges visible, and let me just enlarge this here. And now let's say we want to curve this point here. So we want to make it more smooth. And for this, we need here another tool, and this is a Convert Vertex tool. And if I click on this and click here and drag, you can see I can now get a curved variant. And again, if I keep this here, I can also control an individual handle. So you can also create so sharp points, or how to call this. And also if you click here and drag and now keep the spacebar pressed, you can move the point. So this is with the spacebar pressed, which is really convenient. And now you can adjust it. And for example, if you do your mask like this, you see it probably blends a bit better. Okay, so again I change to this here to make this point a bit larger. And if you turn off the visibility of the mask, you see that there are still these borders visible. And this is just because my feathering I have here is just a bit too much. So if I reduce the feathering like this, you can see now we have here a nice transition. Okay, let's look how this is looking in the final result. Okay, maybe this here is still a bit too large, so I can make it visible here and move these points up. But this is now something that you can really conveniently, let me exchange this here a bit, really conveniently adjust here in your image. Okay, this is a result that I like. Another problem that we now have is that these masks are not yet animating. So the point is, if the face is moving, you can see the mask here stays perfectly fixed, which is of course not very good. So what you can do then to avoid this is to animate your mask path. Probably some of you have already heard about motion tracking, which is one technique that allows you to move elements automatically to movement in your shot. But the honest truth is that often also you have to do stuff by hand. Yeah, this is more accurate and also often not so much slower. So in this case, I would really recommend to just keyframe this mask pass here by hand over time. How is this working? You've seen keyframes already in the second tutorial where we created this lightning, and now we want to use keyframes to change this shape here of the mask. So we want to animate the shape of the red mask, so we twirl down here this option, and in the mask you have here this mask pass element, and this mask pass is actually this shape here, this pass. And if you modify it, let's say we modify it at this point in time, we move it over there, then it stays moved over there all the time, not only this particular frame. So if you want to change this, you can click here on this stopwatch, and now you have here a keyframe. And if we now change it, let's say here, when the head moves down, I want to make it a bit smaller. So I click outside to deselect all points, and now select this point here, for example, and with Shift I select some more other points, like these here, and I move them all down, like this. And now you can see that the mask moves from this key that we've set before to this key that we've set now. And of course you can now improve this, like at this point the mask moves a bit slow. So again, we can move these elements here up to set another key here. By the way, another trick is you can double click on the mask, like on the mask shape like this. And then you have this rectangle box where you can also modify your keyframes easily. So you can transform your mask. You can also click here and rotate, but this is nothing we want now. So I click Escape. Like this. Okay, and now we have our third keyframe, and by this you can now animate your mask as you want. Of course you can add more keyframes to make it more accurate, but I think for the sake of the demo this is sufficient now. Okay, a last thing that I want to explain you is that you can use masks not only on solids, but you can also use it on adjustment layers to influence where effects are, or to which parts of an image effects are applied. So what I want to do for this is I want to add an adjustment layer. So again, either by layer, new, or by going here into the empty region of this window, right clicking and saying new, and now you have here way below adjustment layer. So it's not recorded, but believe me, here in this menu you find new adjustment layer. And what it gives you is a new layer that seems to do nothing at first sight. If you click here, make it visible, nothing happens. And let us apply to this adjustment layer some effect, namely the curves effect. Color correction curves. I drag it here, and now you have your effect, and we are going to cover this effect in more detail in the next Guru lesson. But for now, let us just see that if you move here this point down, it will darken your image. So you can move, for example, like this to get a very darkened version of your image. And this is on this adjustment layer. And if we turn its visibility on or off, the effect is applied or not, which is already quite nice. But now we want to apply a mask to this layer, and this masks we do not want to apply using this pen tool, but this time, to show you another alternative again, we use this tool here that contains certain predefined mask shapes. So you can easily draw rectangles, rounded rectangles, ellipses, polygons, and stars. What we want is an ellipse, so we can click here in the composition and drag and reveal, and now we have a perfectly shaped mask here. Let me undo this again, edit, undo, because what we want to have is an ellipse that fills this entire composition. So for this we can simply double click on this ellipse tool. So I double click, and now we have an ellipse that perfectly matches our composition. What does it help? let me turn off the visibility of it. Now you can see we have applied now this curves effect only to this region of the image, and this outer part is excluded. Yeah, so if we modify this effect, you can see only this part is affected. And what we can do now is, for example, modify this mask and set it instead of add to subtract, which means everything except this region is affected. Yeah? And if we now add, for example, a mask feather, you can see that we create now a nice effect that looks as if only the corners of our image are a little bit darkened. And this is something that happens in some lenses automatically, and this is called a vignette and can very easily be created in such a way. Yeah, so this is without the vignette, and this is with the vignette. This is now maybe a quite very intensive vignette. So if you want to lower the impact of this effect, if you do not want to have it that strongly visible, you can even animate the transparency, so the opacity of this layer. You go to transform opacity, and if you lower it, you can see the effect gets more or less visible. And maybe let's say we want this effect now to have an influence of just 50%. Yeah? So like this, I think the image looks already much nicer than the original one that looked like this. Okay, so that's it for this part of the Guru lessons. What have you learned today? Well, you've seen that we can apply masks to layers, and if we apply it to solids, you can basically shape these solids, and you can also have these variable with mask feather ideas. And furthermore, though, you've seen that if we apply masks to adjustment layers and apply effects to these adjustment layers, that you can apply effects to only certain regions of your image. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this Guru lesson and are with me again next time when we cover this curves effect in a bit more detail.